What if our reality is a dream? What if each one of us has our own unique reality and where we intersect is just glimpses of each other's reality? This is the idea postulated by author Don Miguel Ruiz in the book, The Four Agreements. And today, we're going to look at the powerful message that's contained in this book. Real quick, if you're new here, my name's Steve. I run this channel, Pure Life Pursuit. And on this channel, we take a look at hobbies, tasks, books, everything that helps us live a more pure life. If that's your jam, stick around. But for now, let's get back to the Four Agreements. This book outlines how our perceived reality helps us understand the world around us. We sometimes feel miserable for no reason. We sometimes feel like we're not adequate enough. We sometimes feel like we are held underwater, so to speak. And this book kind of shows the perception of these things and how they impact us. So before we get into the Four Agreements, let's look a little bit into the background that Don Miguel Ruiz talks about in this book. First, my perceived reality is not the same as your perceived reality. My experiences outline how I perceive the reality around us, while your experiences do the same for you. That is why that saying, everybody's going through the same storm, but we're not on the same boat, is so powerful. We each have different experiences that dictate how we perceive situations. The author also talks about how when an animal makes a mistake, they learn from that mistake. They experience that mistake once, as far as we know. They experience that mistake one time and then move on. Humans, we tend to perseverate. We tend to think about the mistake and replay it. And this perseverating on what is going on up here as we relive these negative experiences actually help lead us to more feelings of inadequacy, more feelings that we don't belong, more feelings that we are not good enough. And that's the next thing that the author really wanted to talk about, was how we as humans tend to be our worst judges. And not only do we judge ourselves once and pass sentence that we were dumb, or we weren't good enough, or we should have done that better, we also replay it. And so we're constantly being told, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, in our own mind. It's not outside that's telling us that. It's ourselves that's telling us that. And that is why we get so down on ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why this author wrote this book, to try to get us out of that. The final thought that Don Miguel Ruiz talks about in this book is that words are magic. That sounds super woo-woo, super out there, crazy, right? But he argues that words are magic. That we can be white magicians with our words, and we can share uplifting messages. We can empower people. We can create positivity to flow out of us. Or we can be black magicians, and we can send seeds of doubt and things that will replay in other people's heads and weigh them down. The little things, little moments of, hey, you know what, you're doing good, can uplift and empower people, which is really kind of a cool thing. So after reading this, I'm going to be a little bit of a white magician, if you will. Coffee son, sip. This is the point where I'm going to say spoilers. Granted, this book has been around for a long time. It's been on the New York Times bestseller for a while. But if you want to read it yourself, this is where you should stop the video. If you want to know the Four Agreements, stick around. The first agreement, be intentional with your words. If words are magic, shouldn't we be careful with what we say? Shouldn't we tell people good things, things that will bring peace and harmony around the world, instead of backbiting and being negative? The first agreement that he says to live a better life is to be intentional with what you say. The second agreement, don't take things personally. Remember, we're all living in our own different perceptions of reality. So your perception is totally different from my perception, as I said before. But that also means that what you say to me doesn't necessarily mean that it is my truth. And what I say to you may not be completely your truth. And so if we're walking through life and somebody says something negative, rather than dwelling on it, we can just let it slide and go, you know what? Their perception is different than mine. The third agreement goes along with the second. Don't make assumptions. There's an old saying, when you assume something, you make an ass out of you and me, which is kind of funny that never mind. When we assume things of others, we can get things completely wrong. We might think that they're having a bad day or that they don't like us. They could be tired. They could have other things on their brain. We don't know their situation. So when we assume things about them, we actually limit our ability to know and understand people better. And so I love the third one. Don't assume. We don't know anything about what anybody else is doing. We have to make sure that we're open to new experiences. And the fourth agreement, this one he lays out at the perfect time of the book. Do your best. Every day, do your best. He even admits that changing your perception of life and living by these agreements is hard. We're pre-wired to be our worst judges. We're pre-wired to punish ourselves over and over and over. We're conditioned to look at the negative. And these agreements, they help us get out of the negative and start to experience life to its fullest. And so doing this is difficult. Some days we're going to fail. Some days we are going to get so wrapped up in ourselves that we just feel like we failed. But if we try every day to be a little bit better, to do the best that we can do, we're going to be happier. And the best that we can do doesn't have to be better than every other day. We could have a horrible day today, and the best that we can do is not as good as our best yesterday. But it's the best that we're able to do in the present. And that can help us do amazing things and keep moving forward. Some people did not like this book. I ended up loving it. And it's not that it was super enlightening. It wasn't that it was like powerful beyond measure. It wasn't some hidden arcane wisdom that is new to us. It's just a simple, quick read. I think it's less than 140 pages in the English language. It's quick, and it's just little snippets of wisdom that resonate. And although it's not perfect, and although it doesn't go deep, and there's no scientific backing, and there's not a lot of case studies or anything like that, it does give you a blueprint of how you could potentially make your life better. I liked it, and I liked it enough that I wanted to share with you. And so here we are, looking at this, enjoying the 4 agreements. We'll see you next time.